don't know where that came from, Ossifer.
Eavesdroppin.
Happy New Year, Michelle.
Happy New Year! Can you believe 2025?
2025 staying alive, I hope, because I'm getting older every year. I think you are as well, Michelle. Forgive me for saying so.
I think that's just how it works.
It is how it works. The passage of time goes forth.
It does, unless you believe in this whole aliens from another time.
Oh.
And, you know, there's like a little rip. There's a tear in the Matrix. And time travelers are coming back and all of that stuff.
Where is this coming from, Michelle? You've just launched straight in with fantastical imaginations. What's going on?
Do you know what? It's because there's been things that have been making me think about, is there a tear in the time-space continuum? Yes, we all age, but what if, you know, these aliens from the future...
What are you reaching out to grab there? People can't see you. You just keep putting your hand in front and reaching some imaginary thing and pulling it back. What's going on?
It's my Celine Dion move. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Wow. Hey... Welcome, eavesdroppers, if you're still with us. Year after year. This will be our 5th year, Michelle, on the trot, every week.
The first year was about 5 episodes before we...
But that's
we got
okay.
it. It's okay, so it's good. We've been doing this a while.
We have. And we're so happy that you're along for the ride, those of you who are. We've got some regulars. We've got Shari. She wrote in after the week before Christmas episode, Tsunami. No, what was it? It was, wasn't it? I'm confused.
Yes, it was. It was the week before Christmas.
And all through the house,
yes,
etc., the mouse, all of that. The green chicken, R.I.P.
Oh.
That episode, if you haven't listened, go back. It's a bit of a tough one. It's a one-hander, but it's worth it. It's a story that needs telling. Meanwhile, Shari got in touch to say that she very much enjoyed that episode, despite the tears falling down her face. And then she went on to say that she has recently seen a film, although she won't go into detail on how she got to see it because it's not been released in her country of origin yet, or the country where she lives. It's a Cillian Murphy film. If anyone knows our eavesdropper Shari, she is well into Cillian Murphy, and I think it might have been after you did an episode on Peaky Blinders. I'm not sure.
Oh, who knows?
It sparked something in her.
Well, I'm into Cillian Murphy too, because as I always say, back in the day, he did look the spit of my ex-boyfriend.
That's debatable.
Oh!
Well,
ouch.
not 100%. But she saw this film called Small Things Like These, which stars Cillian Murphy. She says it's very slow, but because she loves Cillian and she read the book, she's well into it. She said it's very full on and it's like a man going through a breakdown, and it touches on the Magdalen laundry. So I'm guessing it is an Irish film, because that was a terrible story, the Magdalen laundries. There are other films out about that and stories about these awful nunneries where young women and their babies and children were kept as slaves, basically. I'm not going to go into it because I've had enough sadness, Michelle.
Yes.
It's the new year. It's 2025.
It is the new year, but I got to tell you, I got a story for you today, which is, it's not going to bring joy.
Well, nor is mine, because it's true crime this week. We just felt that you guys might be missing a little bit of moida.
But I will say, before we get into that, we also did have something drop into...
It dropped, did it? Flop.
It dropped plop into the mailbox from Kiss Apocalypse. Hi, Kissy.
Kissy?
And, Kissy. Kissy Apocalypse. I don't know. He sent a link. It's for absinthe.
Oh, absinthe.
Yes. He said absinthe and Robet, because that's the brand. He said... Sounds like Shelley to me. He calls me Shelley.
I love that he does that. Because seeing as you call like other people, things like our listener Charlene Chappy Happy, you call her mum Magzo, when her name is actually Margaret and no one gave you permission.
Margie, Magsy, I don't know. There's all sorts. But yes, I thought that was very cute. He thought of me because booze and a robe has to be me. So, well, with this absinthe.
What, you have to drink it in a robe? I remember trying absinthe back in, it must have been the early 2000s, maybe late 90s. in my house with a bunch of friends, and you have to do some sort of ritual where you get a sugar cube and you put a drop on it and you set fire to it, I think, to the sugar cube.
I mean, that is a European thing. They drop sugar cubes in and it's basically, 100% proof.
It's brain damage.
Fucking alcohol. And I don't know what you're meant to do with that. It is brain damage. You can lose your eyesight.
That's like in Ireland, there's something called poitín, which is the same kind of thing. It's just pure alcohol.
There's a lot of weird, small alcohol flavors and bits out there. There's one that's Finnish called Mentu, and it's mint. It's basically toothpaste in a fucking
I don't know
bottle.
If you like that. I wonder how this is going down to our listeners right now who may or may not have a hangover after last night's celebration, seeing out the old year and in the new year. I'm having a gong bath later today, Michelle.
Oh my goodness. You're going to cleanse yourself with sound in the fucking freezing cold. I don't know how you're going to do that. I think it'll just be movie day. Movie day for me.
Well, that sounds fun. Got any things on your list?
For this year? What, like as in
to
resolutions?
Watch. No, to watch.
Oh, to watch. No, I'm just going to comb through the telerecs and see what I've missed because, we've got some good stuff and I just don't have time for it all. And we love it when you write in and give us telerecs.
It's all over on Patreon, by the way, www.patreon.com/eavesdroppin, where you get your television recommendations, all sent in by our lovely listeners and a few from our own selves.
We don't have time to watch that much because we watch things for research. We do sometimes actually watch.
For entertainment, you mean?
Well, research for this very podcast.
Oh, I see.
Is what I mean. We watch. Sometimes we watch, sometimes we don't watch. This week I watched, but more on that later.
So tell me, Michelle, you touched on it earlier. Do you actually have any resolutions? Or things that you plan for 2025?
A friend of mine just spoke to me about this the other day and said it's very important to take stock and look back at what happened in the year, the good, the bad. She said she does it by going through her phone and going, January, this happened. Wow, that was fantastic. I forgot all about it because it's almost a year ago. Yeah. Well, it is a year ago. And going through and then looking forward. And she said, I realized I'd put my ambitions on hold for a few years to, support my husband and my kids. And then I thought, no, this is my year. So
Like that.
I don't know. I haven't done that. I haven't gone through and taken stock, but I will. I think it's important to appreciate the good and the bad of the year that's gone and think about what do I want for this year, even if it's just a small thing.
Yeah.
Like more good times with friends or...
Yep. Bite-size goals are good. Yeah.
Achievable things. How about you? Any resolutions?
I haven't thought about it. No, not resolutions. I don't really do that. But I am looking forward to the year ahead. I'm feeling quite energized. I'll be gonging away later, clearing out the old, preparing to bring in the new. And yeah, I have got a few things up my sleeve for 2025 that it came to me while I was bouncing about in the pool doing an aqua aerobics class. And it was particularly fraught. And for some reason, my mind just went usually I'm watching the clock, but this time my mind went places. And I almost had a revelation about something that I need to get on with and do. And I'm going to keep it to myself for now.
Okay.
At some point I may reveal because I could fail. So for that reason, I'm keeping it up my sleeve. But watch this space.
Wow, that's very intriguing. I'm keen to know what that is. When you say it like that, it makes me think about all my half-done projects. Yes. And I feel guilty about it. I really do, especially when I spent money on these half-baked projects. So, yeah, I need to get those off the ground. Watch this space.
Okay, so maybe this is the year for finishing half-done things. Completion, yes.
A couple of weeks back, there was an email from Tamira, the Modern Mystic.
Oh, I love Tamira. Hello, Tamira. Happy New Year.
When I get a chance, I do read those emails that come through because they're always full of great info. Yeah. For some reason, I do believe that it could be this year. I could be wrong. Could be my Saturn return.
Oh, Gemini.
Coming.
Oh, I read that.
For Gemini.
Yes.
So I'm quite excited.
Not Saturn return,
no,
is it?
Maybe it's something return that was 12 years.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's me. That's Gemini in the moon phase of whatever. And I was quite excited by that. I'm looking forward to all the luck.
That's exciting. So this week, Michelle, as I alluded to earlier, there's a bit of a murder theme going on, isn't there?
Yes, same for me.
But mine has a little twist at the end.
Okay.
So is there a murder or isn't there? All I'm going to say to you is bad girls. A little bit like last week's Wham. Bad girls, stick together, have a good time. Unfortunately, they don't always have such a good time, especially when they get caught. I'm going to talk to you today about a lady called Dalia Dippolito. What a name.
I know.
Dalia Dippolito. She sounds like she's a superstar.
It's almost as good as Michelle Margarita.
Exactly. Not quite the same as Geordie Gron, but...
I like that.
I need to try harder. It's not as exotic, is it? But Dalia Dippolito was born in New York City in 1982 as Dalia Mohammed. So Dippolito was not her original name. She and her two siblings were raised by their Egyptian father and Peruvian mother. So far, so exotic.
Really? I'd love to see a photo of her.
Yeah, well, you can. I'm sure I'll send you some things. You can pop it on the Patreon. Very attractive girl. The family moved to Boynton Beach, Florida, when she was 13 years old. Who wouldn't want to move to the beach when they're a teenager like that? I would have loved that. I was already there, but I know some kids who would love that.
I would have loved that.
And she graduated from high school there in the year 2000. Once she was out in the real world, Dalia got herself a real estate license, and also on the side, sounds like she likes money because she also worked as an escort until... In 2008, she met Michael Dippolito, hence the change of name, because this guy, who was an ex-convict and had spent time in jail, was at the time of meeting Dalia on probation, and he was in prison previously due to stock fraud. So that's like, what do you call that? Like insider trading, that kind of thing, I suppose.
What is that? White-collar crime.
White-collar crime, exactly. So eventually this guy, who was already married, divorced his wife to be with Dalia, and the two got married on February 2009, which is only 5 days after Mike's divorce was finalised.
Ouch. That's gotta hurt if you're the ex-wife.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe she was like, get out.
Fuck out.
I'm done with you.
But it didn't take long after saying I do for this chap to start saying, uh-oh.
I don't.
As he found himself tangled up in one bizarre run-in with the law after another. Weirdly for him, Michelle, things just kept going wrong, and he could not figure out why. For example, one night after date night with Dalia, he got pulled over by the police. They searched his car only to find cocaine in his cigarette packet, but the police let him go because he swore up and down that it wasn't his. Imagine, I don't know where that came from, Ossifer. I have no idea. And they believe you and just go, all right.
Never would happen. Never. They're like, yeah, mate, heard that a million times before. Not my drugs.
He must be so convincing. Go, Mike. And he's an ex-con. But somehow he got out of that one. But that wasn't the only strange thing to keep happening. I mean, there was another time when in the morning, the couple went out to get coffee. Dalia handed him a Starbucks. And pretty soon, Mike fell ill. He was so sick, he was practically bedbound for days. A bit like that sickness you were telling me about earlier, which apparently everybody's getting here in London and in Switzerland and Europe.
Let's just say both ends.
And it's bad. It's a good way to lose a bit of that Christmas weight, though, by all accounts. These occurrences kept getting more and more strange, and the police began to take a special interest in Mike due to all these anonymous tips that kept flying in, accusing Mike of being a drug dealer. Where there's smoke, there's fire, Michelle.
Right, so he probably was a bit dodgy.
Well, even though the police failed to find any evidence of drug dealing, poor Michael Dippolito was bricking it at this point. He was so worried that one of these charges might even stick that in July 2009, he made a huge decision. He handed over the title of his house to Dalia to protect his assets because he could feel the heat closing in.
Yeah, right.
So in case he got nicked, he wanted to make sure that the house was secure, Dalia's name's on it, they can't take it from him, etc., etc. But Michelle, here's the juice dropper. Michael didn't have a clue that his lovely new wife, Dalia, was the one behind the anonymous tip-offs.
I mean, I did kind of figure you were going to say that, yeah.
You were thinking that. Okay, it wasn't that much of a surprise. She had been scheming the whole time to get this house transfer. She was playing the long game, Mish.
Wow, so
she had it planned.
Cunning. She's cunning.
I'm just thinking now, because she was a real estate agent and an escort, she'd been planning this for ages.
Oh my God. I mean, this takes a lot of mental preparation and forward planning.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
But so far, so good. She's got the house, right, in her name.
Tick.
Basically, the couple had only been married 6 months when Dalia had come up with this fucking idea. It was so bonkers. It sounds like it could have come straight out of a dodgy American soap opera. Do you remember Sunset Beach? That was a good one, wasn't it?
Oh, God. No, I don't.
Absolutely insane. All these weird things that happen. You probably know because you used to watch
Bold
and the Beautiful.
I was a bold girl.
What was the other one with Eden and Cruz? What was that called?
Oh, Days of Our Lives?
I can't remember. No. Daria planned to bump off her husband, pocket his life insurance, and nab all his properties and money to become a billionaire.
Oh, so how did she know he had all of this? I guess maybe he tried to impress her at the beginning.
Maybe because she met him somehow. I have no idea. I didn't go into all those details. Perhaps I should have. But in her twisted logic, she figured that hiring a hitman to do the dirty work seemed like the best idea, so that her hands were clean. So after many weeks of scheming, she reached out to an ex-boyfriend called Mohammed Shihade, thinking that he would help her find someone to take Michael out. But Mohammed, bless him, was horrified when Dalia told him all of this stuff. So instead of signing up for the job of hitman, he legged it to the police and spilled the beans about Dalia's murderous plot.
Oh, well done.
What a good guy. Well done. Yes, please don't be stupid. At first, the cops weren't buying his story because it just sounded too wacky to be true. But to be on the safe side, which I'm glad the police considered, they decided to dig a little deeper. And they were rewarded because here's where the shit gets really weird. As luck would have it, this is the weirdest thing of all. You know that TV show Cops? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you, bad boys? In Australia, we had it when I was a teenager, and I think it's an American, it is an American TV show called Cops, and it's like watching police go around with certain police forces whilst they go about their daily jobs, nicking people for DUI or whatever, chasing people down.
It's reality TV.
It's a reality.
Yeah, it's not a
documentary style. So, as luck would have it, the TV show Cops was teaming up with their local police that week. And they'd agreed to film everything, including following up Mohammed's story. They must have been having a field day, thinking, gosh, I hope this pans out. So they kitted out Mohammed's car with hidden cameras and got him to arrange a meeting with Dalia. And on July 30th, 2009, in a service station car park, Dalia showed up ready to negotiate. Mohammed's playing it cool, telling her he had a contact who could handle the job, because obviously she's, saying, I need you to find a bad boy for me to shoot my husband. And then everything's set in motion. She agreed to Mohammed telling her to meet this so-called hitman just 2 days later to hash out the details.
This is awful.
Little did she know she was walking straight into a police trap with the cameras rolling, because unbeknownst to Dalia, the Boynton Beach Police Department had their own ace up their sleeve. Officer, now I don't know how to pronounce his name, it's pronounced W-I-D-Y, I'm thinking it's Whitey. Whitey Jean? Whitey Jean? Or Whitey Jean? Or Whitey Jean? I don't know. I'm going to call him Whitey Jean. Going full undercover as hitman to suss the potential Black Widow out.
Oh. It's a sting.
Naturally, the producers from Cops were all over it, ready to capture every jaw-dropping moment on film. And the meeting went down on August the 1st in the most dramatic setting imaginable. Red convertible car parked in a nondescript parking lot, and the cameras are rolling. Dalia doesn't know it. She's sitting there with an undercover officer telling him all her sinister plans, completely unaware that she's starring in the plot twist of her own downfall.
Oh my God. First of all, if you see a bright red convertible in an empty car park,
It's ridiculous.
wouldn't you just be like, what happened to lying low? You know,
Exactly. It's empty
Where's
apart
your-
from one bright red convertible.
I know, it's like, where's the 1972 Honda? You just want to be inconspicuous. Jesus.
Totally. Not for these guys. And in the recording, which obviously Whitey was wired up, he's heard, acting as the hitman, asking Dalia, "Are you sure you want to kill him?" She didn't hesitate with her reply, Michelle. She says, "There's no changing. I'm determined already. I'm positive. I'm like 5,000% sure."
Oh,
Not
my
1,000, not 1
God.
million. 5,000%.
What did this poor guy ever do except marry her and give her his fucking house? Oh my God.
Be rich. She then gave him $7,000 and agreed to be at her local gym on the morning of Wednesday, August 5th, to establish an alibi while it happened. On the morning of the murder, Dalia went to the gym as she said she would at 6 a.m. And those crafty police set up a fake crime scene at her and Mike's townhouse while she was out.
Do you know what? I wonder if they had any budget from Bad Boys, from Bad Cops, because do you know what I mean? This sounds like they're putting a
They
lot
just went to
of-
work, Michelle.
Wrap it in plastic.
Here's $2,000. Can you spray some ketchup around the room, please? I just want to know what it looked like. I'm sure there's video.
Right, I'll have to dig that up if it's out there.
There will be video because it's been all filmed by cops. When she turned up after the gym, there were several police cars parked in front of the house. The whole area had been cordoned off with yellow tape. There was a forensic photographer documenting evidence. They've really gone to town here, the cops. And then the police broke the news to Dalia of her husband's murder. She turned on the waterworks, Mish, like an Oscar-worthy actress, sobbing dramatically into an officer's arms. She played the devastated widow to perfection, and the officer, bless him, even comforted her as they headed to the station to help identify a suspect. But the police had their own plot twist in store. To keep this act going, they brought in Officer Whitey Jean, now handcuffed and playing the role of a suspect.
In that red fucking convertible.
They say that he'd been spotted fleeing the crime scene. Whitey was sticking to the script. He denied knowing Dalia, and she, of course, denied knowing him too. But just when the drama couldn't get any juicier, the police dropped the ultimate bombshell. In strolls Michael Dippolito, very much alive, standing in the doorway with one simple message: "I know everything."
Oh my God. And I guess the camera is like on her face for a close-up.
I imagine it was.
The mascara suddenly dries up.
I need to see this episode. Dalia immediately goes into damage control. She says, "Mike, come here, please, come here. I didn't do anything to you." He told her, "You're on your own." Dalia was charged moments later with solicitation for first-degree murder, or solicitation of first-degree murder. And unbelievably, Dalia's first phone call from jail was to her husband. She not only denied trying to kill him, but also had a pop at him for not getting her a lawyer.
Oh my God, this woman.
I know.
Babe, what are you thinking?
Mike bargained with her and he demanded the title of his property back in return for comforting her distraught parents. That seems kind of cruel, but equally, that's how he got his property back into his name. Dalia was then released on $25,000 bail the next day, and her trial began in spring 2011. Prosecutors argued that Dalia wanted her husband dead and total control of his assets. But in a last-ditch attempt to get herself out of trouble, Dalia came up with a whopper of a tall tale. She claimed, Michelle, as if it couldn't get any more weird, she claimed that she knew the undercover officer was filming her the whole time. And get this, she insisted it was all her husband's idea.
Oh my God.
Which I find really hard to believe, but there's a little grain of me that thinks, is it true? Is it real?
Oh.
Because according to her, Michael was so desperate to be a reality TV star that he convinced her to stage a murder-for-hire plot as some sort of twisted viral video scheme.
What?
Yeah, weird, right? So she's saying that they both decided to do this thing together and they went all that way. I mean, the weird thing about cops being involved, they couldn't have known that was going to happen. No one could have known unless they were in TV cahoots.
No. I mean, look, she's smart and she's racked her brains for any kind of story that could get her off the hook.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
Because it even made me think, oh, could that be true? But in court, she was just insisting the whole thing was just a game, that she never intended to harm her husband and that he was in on it from the start. But, like you, the jury wasn't buying it. They found her guilty and Dalia was sentenced to 20 years in prison. 20 years is a long time, right?
Yeah, it is.
For that. When you think about some of the murders that we've covered, that they only get nothing.
Where people actually died.
So this story doesn't end there. Because in 2014, an appeals court ruled that the jury had been improperly selected, leading to a retrial in 2016, which ended in a hung jury. So
God.
She is sticking by her story and her cute lispy demeanour makes one think, like I said, is this possibly true that the two cooked up a crazy scheme to get eyes on them and their own reality show?
Well, the thing is too, when was the year that she first did this?
Well, she married him in 2009 and then by the end of the year he'd handed over the deeds to his house. As soon as she got the deeds, she was at it.
Right. So basically, between 2009 and 2010, she was planning this murder.
At the very least, if not before.
At the very least. And I will say that even between probably 2010 and 2016, when this second trial is going, there's a lot more acceptance and I think just a general feeling that a reality TV star, it's not so far-fetched. Maybe 2010, that story might have seemed like, whoa, that's on the edge of the line here. But 6 years later, the world is so accustomed to all of this.
You might think it, yeah.
Maybe that's why it's a hung jury, because it doesn't seem as far-fetched.
Well, I think it's quite easy to prove that Whitey did know that she didn't know that he was undercover, right?
Yeah, it is, yes.
All he has to do is say, well, I'm a policeman. I'm not involved in this apart from being told by my superiors that I need to do this thing. So obviously she didn't know I was undercover. He could have been anyone. And if Mohammed is all in on it as well, although maybe Mohammed was in on it, I don't know. No, it can't be, because basically
he went to the cops.
But maybe he went to the cops as part of the scheme. I'm just now confusing myself. As she said in the car, she was 5,000% sure that she wanted her husband dead. And Mike has since said in a video that I saw that he was 5,000% sure that she wanted him dead. And then there was a third trial in 2017 that finally saw Dalia convicted and sent down for 16 years, which again, I say, is a long time.
A long time for an almost murder.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Intent to murder, but she didn't really get away with it. Thanks to cops and thanks to Mohammed. What a naughty girl.
Well, she is a naughty girl. I'm glad she went down because, she wanted that guy dead. She just wanted to cash in whatever he had. And the poor guy, all he did was fall in love with her.
I know. Poor guy. Even though he's married to someone else on his release from prison.
Yes, but we don't know. She must have been very determined to get her hands on whatever he had. Well, what a twisty-turny story. Very interesting.
Now that's a sweet ride. Juice dropper. Now that's a sweet ride.
Juice dropper. I'm confused.
Don't drop your juice. Juice dropper.
So this story also has a few twists and turns. Actually, I can't remember how I found this story because it's old. It's an old case, but it's really heartbreaking. So, hello, 2025.
Yay!
I'm going to start the new year off with a bang. Obviously, it's a true crime episode, Geordie. So, when I say bang,
oh dear,
I literally mean...
I wondered.
A shot to the head. So, we're going back to 2001, and I did not do the music.
That's okay. Don't need it.
We don't need it. But 2001, a woman called Kate Bagby got a message to call the Pennsylvania police, specifically to call the coroner's office. So she rang the number, fearing the worst, thinking that something had happened to her only son.
Oh, God.
But obviously hoping for the best.
But when do you hope for the best when somebody from the coroner's office calls you up? What's the best? That somebody else is dead and they're not really related to you? I guess. Still not the best, is it?
It's not the best, but you just got to hope that, I don't know, it's something other than what you think it is.
Yeah, sure. But I think when you get those calls, you know.
Yeah, of course. It was bad news. Her son, who was a doctor, had been found dead in a park in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. He was still wearing his hospital scrubs, and there were some suspicious circumstances. They told Kate Bagby most likely her son Andrew had been murdered. And then they said to her, do you know why he was in the park that day? She had no clue. On November 6, 2001, when police found Andrew Bagby's body, he'd been shot 5 times.
Jesus.
The park they found him in was close to where Andrew lived. I mean, I think it was literally a couple of minutes walk away. It did not take long for a lead suspect to be identified because Andrew's friends told police they believed the killer was a woman called Shirley Turner. And this woman was someone Andrew had been seeing.
I was going to say, 5 times, that's a crime of passion.
Well, yeah, that's not just rando, trying to get your wallet.
That's not anything but, I am angry with you.
Exactly, because he'd just broken up with her 2 days earlier.
Oh, God.
On November 4th. Now, Shirley didn't live in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. She lived in Iowa in a place called Council Bluffs. She'd gone to see Andrew in Pennsylvania that weekend, but Andrew knew the relationship was going nowhere and it wasn't working out. And he ended it with her over that weekend, actually over lunch at the airport when he was saying goodbye to her.
And by the way, you're dumped.
It's over. I don't know how that would have gone down with her, but clearly not well. But, look, kudos to him. He at least did it in person.
Yeah.
Not over the phone, not over text. After he called time on the relationship, he saw her off. He watched her get on the plane. And I imagine he felt like, whew, thank God, it's done. Relationship's over. But, Geordie, the very next day, on November 5th, Shirley calls Andrew and says, I'm on my way to see you.
Oh.
I'm nearly back in Latrobe and I want to meet you to talk about the breakup.
So she did a full 360. She flew to wherever and came straight back again. Back on a plane immediately. Oh, dear.
Exactly.
She stewed on that plane.
Oh, my God. She must have been fuming because Council Bluffs is 1,000 miles away, which is around 1,600 Ks. That's a lot of driving.
She drove back.
Yes, she drove back, which makes me think she got off that plane, threw that same suitcase in her car and drove directly back to Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Determined. So I'm about to give you a quote from one of Andrew's friends because there's a documentary called Dear Zachary. And I watched it. I was saying before, when we do Telirec, sometimes we do stories. Sometimes we don't have time to watch the documentaries. I actually watched this one. And look, I feel a bit mean saying this, but I will just say it. It's not the best documentary I've ever seen.
Okay.
In fact, it's pretty amateurish. I was not into the style of the documentary or the editing techniques or the storytelling narrative device. And, no spoilers, it's called Dear Zachary because it's kind of put together in a letter writing style.
Yeah.
I wanted to know about the story, so I kept watching. I don't think I can really put this as a telirec, but I will put it on Patreon because the key thing about this whole documentary is that it's made by Andrew's best friend, Kurt, who kind of made it his mission, I guess, to kind of create a visual love letter to Andrew's life as a tribute to his life and a keepsake for his family. So it's got a lot of friends and family in the film, which makes it very personal. When I was watching it, I thought it actually felt more like a kind of reel of memories that someone might show at a birthday or a funeral.
Yeah.
But that said, you do see this case from a different angle, and the fact that so many friends and family members contributed, and they all fucking loved this guy. By all accounts, he was a really great guy. You do get a feeling for Andrew Bagby as a person and not just a murder victim. So there's definitely value in this documentary from that perspective, even if the documentary does feel a bit like a high school project.
Got it.
Back to a quote from this documentary. On the day Shirley drove back from Council Bluffs to Latrobe, Andrew's friend, and I actually don't know his name more than Dr. Simpson.
Oh.
He said he'd spoken to Andrew, who said to him, quote, and this is Dr. Simpson talking.
Yeah.
He says, I remember the morning that Shirley showed up. Andrew called him and said, you'll never guess who showed up at my doorstep at 5:30 this morning. And I said, who? And he said, the psychotic bitch.
Oh.
So you can kind of see how Andrew feels about this woman already. And then this guy says, I told him, you know, Andrew, when I break up with somebody and put them on a plane and send them 1,000 miles away and then they knock on my door, I'm going out the back door and I'm calling the police.
Yes, I agree.
And Andrew said, what do you mean? And I said, Andrew, be serious. No one drives 16 hours after you've just broken up with them. And I said to him, do not meet her in private. And he said, what can happen?
Oh, no.
And then he said, I'm going to need to catch up with you after, and we're going to have to do some serious talking. And I said, bring some beer. When do you think you'll be done? And he said, well, it's 4:30 now. I'm meeting her at 6. I'll be at your house at 7:30. Now, things that people should know about Andrew is what his friend said. He was never late. And you know what? When Andrew didn't show up at 7:30, I knew something was very wrong. Obviously, Andrew did not show up for work the following morning at the hospital. Did I mention he's a doctor?
Yes.
Right. So he's working at a local hospital, absolutely loved his job. Everyone loved him. He was, by all accounts, this kind, caring doctor that really listened and really put the extra miles in to help people, but didn't show up for work. He didn't pick up the phone when colleagues rang his mobile, and at 9 a.m., there was a report on TV that said a body in hospital scrubs had been found in the park.
Oh, God.
And every doctor there knew it was Andrew. He'd been shot 5 times, Geordie, in the face, the chest, twice in the buttocks.
What? That was when he was on the ground.
Yep, and in the back of the head.
Jesus. She kept shooting.
Yep. Well, he'd also been hit on the back of the head as well.
Oh, God.
So police arrived at Andrew's workplace at the hospital, and Andrew's friend, Dr. Simpson, told the police, well, hell, you don't have to look too far. This woman was in town. She was here. Go and find Shirley Turner, and I think you'll find who did this.
Yeah.
And everyone just knew it was Shirley who murdered Andrew. More than that, the ammunition used to kill Andrew were .22 caliber bullets, and Shirley owned a .22 caliber handgun.
Oh, God. Shirley, why?
Yeah.
Why does she own that?
Well, for protection.
Oh, God.
So the police did find Shirley. She was back in Iowa, and they asked her about the murder and her gun. And she said, yeah, I do have a .22 caliber handgun, but I don't know where it is. She also said she was home sick all day on Monday, November 5. So she had no clue what the police were talking about. And what she didn't know is that the police were already checking the cell phone tower records, which showed that Shirley had made calls from her mobile that pinged off masts all the way from Iowa to Pennsylvania and then back again. And when the police called her out on this, she changed her story. She said, oh, well, I actually gave Andrew the gun in the parking lot, and I saw him put the gun in his trunk. But I guess, look, she's a doctor as well, so she's smart, but I guess she's not too bright, because this second iteration of her story puts her back in Pennsylvania and having, her admit that she'd seen Andrew and given her this gun. But she denied any involvement in his murder. In the following 2 weeks, when police were trying to get all the hard evidence of the cell phone mast records to prove she did make those calls en route from her place to his. Well, Shirley's Canadian, and she skipped out of the USA and went back to Canada, back to her home in Newfoundland. And the fact that
Newfoundland. It's pronounced Newfoundland. I've got friends from there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Newfoundland.
Yeah, Newfoundland.
Okay.
Yeah, Newfoundland.
Look, I hear you. I may not remember to say that
You won't.
throughout this episode, so it might just be a mix of God knows what.
Somewhere in Canada.
Yes. And it's kind of like fucking asshole of Canada. It's cold, it's shit weather. I read a quote that someone said, we have 8 months of winter and 4 months of bad weather. It's really not a great place to live. But anyway, she was like, fuck it, I'm out. And she went back to Newfoundland. And of course, the fact she's not in the USA, it really fucks up the investigation.
For sure, yeah.
Now, Newfoundland is where Andrew had been studying medicine and where he'd first met Shirley.
Oh, that's where they met, right.
She was 14 years older than him. She had 3 kids, divorced twice, and she did not fit in with Andrew's friends. In fact, friends in the documentary say she was inappropriate in public.
Oh, God.
She would say things that were just in really poor taste. She was always making sexually inappropriate comments.
Wow.
To Andrew in front of his friends, to the friends. She was never threatening, but she would just do weird sexy dancing and just make everyone feel uncomfortable. And they said there was just something off about her and no one could really connect with her. And that even though she'd qualified as a doctor, she wasn't practicing. No one would hire her.
Right.
And I had read that she'd been laid off from quite a lot of medical jobs because no one could work with her. She would lie about things. She would implicate people in things that had gone wrong that were her fault. And she just had a bad reputation. Andrew's friends just got bad vibes from her. And the thing is that they all knew that Andrew had struggled after his ex-fiancée Heather had broken off the engagement. They all just kind of thought, look, he's with this woman Shirley rather than, be on his own.
Yeah.
And one friend actually recalled having a conversation with Andrew where, they were speaking about Shirley. And the friend said, you can do better. And Andrew was like, nope, I really can't. And he was like, I'm short, I'm portly, this is it. And he is not a bad-looking guy. He's cuddly and he's kind of cute.
Aww.
And from all the footage from friends and family, he was this smart and funny and sweet and kind guy that everybody loved. So, what happened to him felt even more unfair because he was not an asshole. So the documentary focuses really heavily on Andrew's parents, who are this beautiful couple called Kate and David. Kate's British, David is American, and the love between them in this documentary and the shared heartbreak about what happened to their son is gut-wrenching, especially with the way that things unfold in this case.
Yeah.
So, quick recap. Shirley had said she'd been homesick in Iowa when Andrew was shot, but then cell phone records showed her making calls all up and down that 1,000-mile highway the day before the murder, the day of the murder, and the day after.
So she's placed herself there.
Yep. So while the police investigation is happening in Latrobe, Shirley fucks off to Newfoundland.
She does a runner.
Meaning the USA has to now
extradite
her out of Canada to get the trial going. So there was a memorial for Andrew in Newfoundland, and she attended that.
What?
And apparently, according to Andrew's friends, she was howling through the whole thing, and they were all like, fake. Then the police tried to lure her back to the States by getting his family to invite Shirley to the California memorial.
Oh, God.
But she didn't take the bait. Finally, after they realised Shirley's smart, she's not leaving Canada, they had her charged and arrested in Newfoundland on December 12, 2001. But she was let go on bail the very same day, despite the fact that clearly she's a flight risk because she'd already skipped town once and fled to Canada. What's weirder is that the judge in this case didn't argue against her posting bail and in fact already had an agreement in place for her bail release.
What?
So something weird is going on here.
Who's she related to?
I don't know, but I think on paper, she's this kind of woman in her 40s, a doctor.
Oh, I see.
I think that people are kind of giving her a bit of benefit of the doubt. All she had to do was post $75,000 in bail. You're going to love this. Her personal psychiatrist put the bail up for her.
Because clearly she's got narcissistic personality disorder or something similar.
But Geordie, as somebody in that field, would you put up bail for one of your clients?
No.
I find that outrageous. But look, shit's getting even weirder now because essentially what the Canadian government has done is let a woman accused and charged with premeditated first-degree murder out on bail and back into the community.
Yes.
Until a decision about her extradition can be made.
Doesn't make sense.
No. And that decision took months and months and months of complicated court addresses and delayed hearings and more bail, which was granted, which means essentially Shirley was just living her life as a free person in the community while all of this was in process. And then Shirley drops a bombshell.
Oh, my God.
She's 4 months pregnant with Andrew's child.
What? Is it true?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And at this point, Andrew's heartbroken parents, Kate and David,
God.
who can't believe their son's killer is out on
Pregnant
bail.
with their kid.
Yeah, and now carrying his child. They decide, fuck it, we've got to fight for custody of this child. So their grandchild is not brought up by a murderer. So Kate and David Bagby quit their jobs, dig into their savings, and give up everything and move from the States to Newfoundland.
Oh, yikes.
Where they get a lawyer and they try to get the ball rolling.
Okay.
So they get custody once that baby is born. And they explain to the authorities and child protection services that they're concerned for the safety of this child because the mother has been accused of premeditated murder of the baby's father, which I think seems pretty cut and dried.
Yeah.
But the grandparents, obviously, I think they should be getting custody of that child when the time is right because she's also in this whole battle for being extradited back to the USA. There's a lot going on here. But obviously, things are never straightforward. There were delays with the extradition hearing. There were translation issues, which delayed the case. Well, it's this whole French-English thing.
Oh, okay.
More problems, more delays. And while all this is going on, Shirley gives birth to a healthy baby boy who is the image of Andrew.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, and she names him Zachary. Hence the name of this
Zachary.
documentary, Dear Zachary. Yeah.
I wondered.
So as soon as Zachary was born, Kate and David went to the hospital to meet the baby. Shirley wouldn't even let them in.
Oh, no.
And this is a sign of how things are going to go. So Kate and David's lawyer, Jackie, files custody papers as soon as Zachary is born. And eventually Kate and David and Shirley end up in family court. Surprisingly, I don't even understand this, it didn't go well for Kate and David.
Oh.
The court were basically on the side of Shirley, even though she's charged with premeditated first-degree murder of the baby's father and is in Canada on a technicality. She fled. So in the end, they have to negotiate with this accused murderer and they get 1 hour a week with that baby.
Oh, no.
Which can only happen under supervision. Mm-hmm. And Kate and David have to be searched, monitored, as if they're the criminals here.
Yeah.
Because Shirley is a Canadian citizen, through some loophole, I don't know what loophole this is, but she doesn't have to pay for her lawyer. But the Bagbys do, because they're American. So she says to them, I'm going to delay this as much as I can so you run out of money with these lawyers and I get what I want.
Wow.
So she's really conniving here. But in the end, it's a 1 hour custody, well, not custody, it's a 1 hour supervised visit a week. The Bagbys take it. And even in that 1 hour a week, Kate and David Bagby form a beautiful bond with that baby.
Oh.
And Shirley's pissed off. She can see this baby is like really connecting with the grandparents.
Yeah.
And she accuses them of dumb shit like, you kept Zachary longer than the 1 hour allotted time slot. And she tries to get this 1 hour taken away. But she fails because the supervisor of the visit is like, didn't happen.
Yeah.
So she's clutching at straws.
So anyway, that's why it's good to have the supervision in place because at a centre, because everything is documented.
Yes, and it's a neutral party.
Yeah.
So then finally the extradition proceedings go to court. And on November 14, 2002, a guy called Judge Derek Green declared that a properly instructed jury could likely find Shirley guilty of premeditated first-degree murder. And he ordered her to be incarcerated in the Clarenville Correctional Centre for Women in Canada while waiting for a decision from the Minister of Justice to surrender Shirley back to the USA for the trial. And to everyone's surprise, Shirley gave Kate and David custody of Zachary while she was in prison.
Oh.
They were delighted.
Yeah.
They were like, fuck, fantastic. This is what they wanted. But of course, there were strings attached. They had to accept a phone call every day from Shirley to Zachary.
Right.
And once a fortnight, they had to drive 2 hours to the prison where Shirley was and take Zachary for a visit, which to me doesn't sound so bad. But Newfoundland is like 80% blizzards for 80% of the year.
Yeah.
Kate and Dave are old. It's hard for them to make that drive, but they do it. And then a few months later, for fuck knows what reason, they let Shirley out of prison.
Oh, good behaviour.
Well, I don't know. I mean, she's waiting to be charged with fucking murder.
Oh, I see. Oh, my God.
So they let her out, and Kate and David have to give Zachary back.
Oh, no, that's heartbreaking again.
Yeah, to the woman accused of murdering their son.
Oh, dear.
So I don't know how, but Shirley somehow managed to manipulate the system so she could get out of jail before her extradition, to the point where a judge called Judge Welsh said this, and I find this so disturbing. She said, well, they call her Dr. Turner, not Shirley Turner, I think, which is a clue. Dr. Turner's detention is not necessary in the public interest. While the offence with which she is charged is a violent and serious one, it was not directed at the public at large. There is no indication of a psychological disorder that would give concern about potential harm to the public generally, as her crime, while violent, was specific in nature. So what she's saying in effect is,
no one else is in danger. It's just Simon. Is that his name?
Andrew.
Just Andrew was the one.
Yeah, she just wanted to kill him. She did it. No one else is in danger.
If you're not Andrew Bagby, then you're fine.
But if you unpack that, what's just happened here is that...
It's okay to murder someone.
Yeah.
As long as it's just one person.
Yeah.
And that person's now dead. So we're all safe, guys.
Yep.
Don't worry.
Yep.
That's fucked.
But what she's saying is there's no indication of a psychological disorder.
Which is weird because she's seeing a psychiatrist.
Most people, when their boyfriend breaks up with them, don't fucking murder them. So I think there's something going on here, but
Yes.
It's very strange.
Balls are being dropped. Things are being missed.
Exactly. And then Zachary went back to live with Shirley, and she made it so hard for Kate and David to see him that they ended up agreeing to kind of get rid of this supervision.
Good.
Well, they did it because the supervision kept falling through.
Oh.
Because either the supervisor wasn't available or Shirley would change the day or whatever. And so they were like, if we want to even see this kid, we just need to come up with something. The problem was, without that supervision, it meant Kate and David had to spend time with Shirley and that child, which was so hard for them because they're like, this woman killed our son. But they agreed to it. And on Zachary's first birthday, Shirley was still not in prison. She still had Zachary. And for his first birthday, she took him to McDonald's for a birthday party.
He's one.
He's one. Macca's.
We're so judgy.
I am a judgy bitch. You don't give a 1-year-old a fucking hamburger. She did say that Kate and David could attend the Macca's party. And when Zachary saw them, he absolutely ditched Shirley and crawled over to them and was so happy.
Oh, he felt safe with them.
Shirley was fuming. She was fucking pissed off that Zachary favoured them over her in front of people. She wasn't having it, Geordie.
Oh, shit.
So shortly after Zachary's birthday, on August 18, 2003, Kate and David came home after running some errands and found like a policeman's card in their door and an instruction to call the police station.
Oh, God.
Shirley and Zachary were missing, and it was splashed all over the news. And again, Kate and David were like, okay, maybe she's just skipped town for a night. Maybe, she's attempting to kidnap him. But then the news came.
Oh, God.
The body of a 13-month-old baby had been found at a nearby beach, along with an adult female.
Oh, fuck.
And Kate and David were asked to go to the station to identify the bodies of both Shirley and Zachary.
This is awful.
And it seems that Shirley had mixed her anti-anxiety meds, it was a med called Ativan, into Zachary's formula. And then she strapped him to her stomach with an old jumper and walked off the edge of a pier and into the Atlantic Ocean. And they both drowned in this murder-suicide.
Fucking hell.
And so, obviously, heartbroken and angry over this fucking preventable and unnecessary death of Zachary, Kate and David mounted this campaign, just called out the entire Canadian legal system's failure to protect Zachary. They called for reforms to the country's bail laws because they were like, that's what enabled Shirley to kill both Zachary and herself in the first place. She should never have been allowed out on bail, and she certainly should never have been released from prison. Also, partly because of this documentary, which actually went to Sundance and got very good reviews at the time, even though I've just bagged it out.
Yeah.
This documentary had a real impact in Canada. A panel convened by the Ministry of Justice in Newfoundland released a report saying that Zachary's death was preventable. No shit. I mean, they fucking handed that baby to a mentally unstable murderer. And the ministry also found the government's handling of the case was inadequate. And you'll also be pleased to know that Shirley's psychiatrist, the one that stumped up the bail, was found guilty of misconduct. I think he was struck off, and the director of Newfoundland's Child Welfare Agency resigned.
So this is rough justice. It is heartbreaking to me that poor Kate and David have lost twice. So big. They've lost big. They've lost their son, their beloved son, then they've lost their beloved grandson, who they fought and sacrificed everything to be near and to care for and to try and get him into their lives. And he obviously adored them too. And that was his murder sentence, was, being loved by and loving back his grandparents, because this woman slipped through all the cracks, slipped through all the nets, slipped through everything. And the people who were supposed to keep Zachary safe and give justice for the death of Andrew, it's just appalling. Well done to Kate and David in their grief to actually push for this to all be seen and acknowledged and rectified.
Well, actually, in 2010, a bill was passed called Zachary's Bill for more protection to children involved in bail hearings and custody battles. Yeah. So there was, an outcome, but fucking shocking. Absolutely shocking.
It's not a one-size-fits-all. This woman who should have been extradited wasn't for whatever reason. There were various things, hoops that David and Kate had to jump through in order to see Zachary. Again, it's not one size fits all. It's such a shame that the law has to be applied to every case so rigidly. And I don't believe that it's necessary. Maybe it's too hard not to do it that way. But there's got to be some leeway and there's got to be some case-by-case review, I think.
I mean, I think the first fuck-up was she should have been put in jail as soon as she was accused of the murder, because then she would never have fled to Canada and none of this potentially would have happened. So, yeah, heartbreaking case. And happy fucking 2025.
Well, it's the light and the dark, isn't it, Michelle? That's the world we live in, unfortunately. We can't have a smile without a tear. Well, I'm looking forward to a gong bath now, after all that murkiness.
Cleanse yourself of all of that for a wonderful new year ahead. And we're so excited for 2025 with all our eavesdroppers.
Yes, please stick around. We'll see what else we can pull out of the bag for you.
Tell your friends. Any
ideas for stories, do write in. Sometimes we will pick up on them, sometimes we won't. We tend to not want to do ones with children, even though Michelle just did the death of a baby. We tend to not do child cruelty and things like that because that's hard. And animal cruelty, you guys don't like it.
It's tough.
That green chicken story really turned a lot of people off, Michelle.
Are you serious?
I almost switched off and I had to sit here and listen.
The poor green chicken, R.I.P. green chicken. I will say you had sent me a picture of a green chicken that just said R.I.P. It was quite a fluoro chicken. Mine was a lovely soft green, but it did break my heart when I saw that. Thank you for your story, and I think there's just really only 3 things left to say.
Yes, wherever you are.
Whatever you do.
Be sure to celebrate 2025 in style and
just keep
eavesdropping!
Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Dropping. Eavesdropping. Dropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping.
Dropping. Dropping.